Good day to you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We've been reading in the book of Deuteronomy. Last time we read Deuteronomy chapter 19. That was about cities of refuge and a little bit about the law that we talked about. This time we're reading Deuteronomy chapter 20, and this is going to be about the laws of warfare. Now, I am reading in the Amplified Bible. When you go out to battle against your enemies and see horses and chariots and people more numerous than you, do not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God, who brought you up from the land of Egypt, is with you. When you approach the battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to the people, and shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, you are advancing today to battle against your enemies. Do not lack courage. Do not be afraid or panic or tremble in terror before them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. The officers shall also speak to the soldiers, saying, What man is there who has built a new house and has not yet dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, otherwise he might die in the battle, and another man would dedicate it. What man has planted a vineyard and has not put it to use, harvesting its fruit? Let him go and return to his house. Otherwise he might die in the battle, and another man would begin to use its fruit. And who is the man who is engaged, legally promised to a woman, and has not married her? Let him go and return to his house. Otherwise he might die in the battle, and another man would marry her. Then the officers shall speak further to the soldiers and say, Who is the man who is afraid and lacks courage? Let him go and return to his house, so that he does not cause his brother's courage to fail like his own. And it shall be, when the officers have finished speaking to the soldiers, they shall appoint commanders of armies over them. Now, these are very interesting verses, and it's kind of unusual for the way we think about having an army put together and going to war. But these are people they're all just people of that nation. They're not really drafted into a standing army. We have to understand that was not the idea. They weren't doing just having a standing army to go fight. This was God talking to the people of the entire nation. So, now there was a legal age limit on these men. It couldn't be too young or too old. But here, notice the exceptions. If you're, afraid that you won't be able to enjoy your house or your vineyard, or, if you are engaged, and you haven't had a chance to really marry your wife and have a family, who lacks courage and is afraid. Though you'll notice the first verses, really, the priest comes out and says, Do not lack courage, do not be afraid or panic or tremble before them. Now, it's normal for anyone, if you think about it, lined up in a battle like they used to do, it would be normal for anyone to be afraid, to have some fear. Having some fear and caution is actually a good thing, but you don't want it to be uncontrollable. Uncontrollable fear is as bad as being rashly angry, in that you may react and do something incorrectly that you can't take back because of that sudden fear, that's overwhelming for a moment. And that can happen to anyone. I mean, certainly I've had moments where I was scared, really badly for a minute, and maybe my first reaction wasn't the best. So that can happen. But here he's really talking about who is afraid and lacks courage, as in who just, who cannot do this. There are some people who their thing is not going to be battle. They're not going to be able to really accomplish anything in a battle. They would be a hindrance. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's just a fact. Just like there are some people who are not going to be able to do other things. Some people are going to be very good at that battle. Some people are going to be better at planning and supporting things or doing other things. That's perfectly normal. But here, God realizes he's talking to a nation of people. This is not a standing army. A standing army would be different. So he's given them chances to opt out if they need to or if they have reason to. And also, like I said, if they are afraid and lack courage and they just would not be of benefit, in the battle, there's no point in hindering your fellow men, because he says, let him go in return so that he does not cause his brother's courage to fail like his own. And also there's other factors. I think there's other reasons, such as he could actually be a hindrance or get in the way. Someone could actually be trying to protect that person and get themselves into trouble. So there's a number of reasons why you wouldn't want someone there if they're really unable to function in that combat. And that's what it is. It's combat, and it would be, life or death. When you advance to a city to fight against it, you shall first offer it terms of peace. If that city accepts your terms of peace and opens its gates to you, then all the people who are found in it shall become your forced labor and shall serve you. However, if it does not make peace with you, but makes war against you, then you shall lay siege to it. When the Lord your God gives it into your hand, you shall strike down all the men in it with the edge of the sword. Only the women and the children and the animals and everything that is in the city, all its spoil, you shall take as plunder for yourself, and you shall use the spoil of your enemies, which the Lord your God has given you. That is what you shall do to all the cities that are very far away from you, which are not among the cities of these nations nearby, which you are to dispossess. Only in the cities of these people that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, you shall not leave alive anything that breathes, but you shall utterly destroy them, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, just as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that they will not teach you to act in accordance with all the detestable practices which they have done in worship and service for their gods, and in this way cause you to sin against the Lord your God. So notice there's a difference here. The cities that are farther away, if they accept your terms, then you can make them basically your forced labor. They will be your, what did they used to call it? Your chattel or your servants. They would basically be, serve you and work for you, right? They wouldn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily say they will be slaves, and it doesn't say that you would take everything from them, but basically you would rule over them is the idea. So, if they do not surrender, then you would kill all the men with the sword and allow the women and children and everything else to live. And you would take that for yourself. Now, we have to remember, this is thousands of years ago. That idea there of that idea right there is better than you would have gotten from a lot of countries. Some kingdoms were just going to kill all of you anyway. That's just what they were going to do. Some of them were going to enslave as many of you as they could, whatever. That's just the way it was. Here, they're really not doing that. They're really giving them a break. Is it the best thing in the world? Probably not, but it would be better than having everyone destroyed and having everyone killed. Now, notice that God makes a difference for those cities that are closer and inside the land that God has given them. And notice that he has a reason for that. The reason he says to kill them all and to destroy all of them, and he lists them out, the ones that are to be destroyed. The reason is because of their detestable practices. They sacrificed their children. They did all kinds of things, idolatrous and awful, horrible things. And he didn't want the children of Israel to do these things. He didn't want them to learn their ways. Unfortunately, we know they were partially successful, but not totally successful. So, because they did still have some idol problems and things of that nature. When you besiege a city for a long time, making war against it in order to capture it, you shall not destroy its fruit-bearing trees by swinging an axe against them, for you may eat from them, and you shall not cut them down. For is the tree of the field a man that it should be besieged, destroyed by you? Only the trees which you know are not fruit trees shall you destroy and cut down, so that you may build siege works against the city that is making war with you until it falls. This is really more of a common sense tactic. Why destroy the trees that your army's going to need to eat food? You don't know how long you're going to be in a siege. You could be there for months. I think there were some sieges that went years. So you're going to want to make sure that you have food for yourselves, right? And he plainly says, you might need the fruit from those trees. You may eat from them, right? So that's really more of a good common sense thing. But you know how people are when they get excited and maybe they're laying a siege and they're getting frustrated and angry, and maybe they just want to cut down all the trees. Well, this is where God is saying, wait, don't do that. That's not a smart move. And he's right. That's not a smart move. That's not a good idea. Keep some of that stuff that you can feed your army off of in case it's a long siege. So this has been Deuteronomy chapter 20. That's the laws of warfare is what my Bible calls that. So I want to thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless you and keep you safe. And remember, God loves you.